Hi guys, my name is Elizabeth. I just turned 27 recently, and I've been on a weight loss journey in the year 2018. From January until July, when I'm filming this, I lost just over 22 pounds, and I have about 15 to 17 pounds to go. But just recently, I've had a huge mindset change that has made a big difference for me and has really turbocharged my fitness and my weight loss, and has really changed how I see um, not only food but a lot of different things about myself. So YouTube has been such an incredible inspiration to me on this journey so far, and I wanted to make this video to give back to the YouTube weight loss community a bit and maybe inspire someone else who's just getting started on a fitness journey like myself. I'm a total beginner. I am still learning about both fitness and diet, and I know I have a really long way to go, but I'd like to share what I've done so far and maybe my goals for the future as well. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in the greater Seattle area in a city called Bremerton. Growing up, I was average sized, not really thin or fat, but just kind of normal. I remember about the age of 6 or 7, I started feeling a bit chubbier than many of my friends. And also, I noticed that I was more attached to eating, or like I thought more about eating than they seemed to. Specifically, sweets like ice cream and candy. Whenever my mom would go into the basement or go outside, I would run to the kitchen and like scarf a few bites of whatever we had that was like sweet. And I think what was going on at the time is that my mom and dad were fighting a lot when I was in elementary school. It was quite chaotic at home, and it was really scary for me. And I didn't have any way to express my feelings or anyone I could really talk to. I'm an only child, and of course, I didn't really feel comfortable talking about my feelings with my parents because I felt like they'd just blame each other anyways. And of course, when you're that young, it's quite difficult to confide in your friends. They probably wouldn't even know what to say, right? So I think I turned to sweets as a kind of mechanism of like comforting myself and making myself feel safe. Because when you're 7 or 8 years old, like what other vice do you have access to besides food, right? I think I did the only thing I could do. And so throughout elementary school, I was like normal sized, but maybe a bit on the chubby side. I didn't really play sports. I wasn't very athletic, and my town in the Seattle area was very rainy, especially in the winter. So I was kind of sedentary. I remember I weighed 88 pounds by the time I finished 5th grade. And then in middle school, of course, it's a very stressful time. So I kept like stress eating, and I think I gained about 35, 36 pounds during middle school, which is quite a bit. Even though you're supposed to gain weight during puberty, I was definitely on the heavy side, and my mom and I would argue about it sometimes if she felt like I was taking too many desserts at an event or I was overeating. She would like confront me about it, and then I would start crying, and we would like argue. It was just like the worst feeling when you're at a public event and you have food in your mouth and you're crying about the food you have in your mouth. It's just really awful. So the summer before my freshman year of high school, we moved from the Seattle area down to Bend, which is in Central Oregon. And Bend is a very outdoorsy town. The winters are quite dry, so you can be active year-round, and most people are. I immediately started exercising more. I got into better shape, and then my sophomore year, I joined the cross country team with my best friend, lost a bunch of weight over the summer and fall, and then my winter, I also joined the ski team. And man, did we work out. Like, I was introduced to weight training, which I loved from the beginning. We did like box jumps, we did sprint drills, we did abs, and then on the weekends we were skiing like 8 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday. So you can imagine, I was in such good shape and I felt amazing. Like, I wasn't skinny or visibly muscular, but I was very toned and I didn't have um, a lot of like extra body fat. I was just at a very comfortable and healthy place. And around that time, my weight was 117 to 118 pounds. That's the lowest weight I've ever had as an adult, although I guess I wasn't technically an adult yet. And I may have still been growing slightly, but not much by that point. So I was so happy. I felt so confident in my body. Like, I got my first bikini that following summer at the end of my sophomore year. But that was the summer I turned 16. So I got my license, I got a job, stopped doing school sports, and just basically like worked and saved for a car. And looking back, I really wish that I had stuck with the school sports rather than, focusing on my part-time job and other things. But at the time, I was just so busy with work and school and friends that I felt like I didn't have time. Anyways, from age 16, when I was at my lowest weight, until age 26, I gained about 40 pounds, which is quite a lot. Now, it wasn't all at one time. It was very gradually over the years, and my weight would go up a little bit, and then it would go down, and then it would go up a little bit, and it would go down, kind of like the stock market. But the trend was always upwards, right? So my weight would yo-yo a bit, but it was always like climbing. I think by the time I graduated high school, I was probably like 125, 130. Then my freshman year of college, I gained a bunch of weight. Nutella with Oreos. And late night ice cream and calzones. Not good. And then I lost some and kind of gained again. Probably by the time I graduated college, I was around 135, 140. And then I got a corporate job. And I hated it. It was so stressful. When I first started, I was commuting 2 hours a day by car to work, and then I was sitting at my desk like 8 to 9 hours a day. I was really stressed, so I would come home from work and eat dinner, and then we would have like the big cereal bowls of ice cream and watch Netflix. And that is how I got to my highest weight at that time. I got up to 150. That was in 2014. And seeing that number just really scared me because I'd never weighed that much before, and I was very uncomfortable in my body. So I did make some lifestyle changes at that point. I moved closer to my job. I started commuting to work by bike, and I changed my diet, cut down on the ice cream. And then when I was 25, which was in 2016, so 2 years ago, I quit my corporate job and I took a position, like a teaching contract, in France as an English assistant. It was such an amazing year. I don't regret anything, but I did put on about 5 or 10 pounds while I was there, just like eating lots of chocolate croissants and amazing French desserts and pastries, and then going out to eat a lot with the other assistants, drinking beer, and just kind of like, I don't know, I kind of went on a YOLO kick for the 7 months I was in France. Like, I was just thinking like, I'm going to take advantage of being here and eat whatever. And I think I went overboard. Like, I could have enjoyed the French cuisine without having like a chocolate croissant 3 times a week. There was this bakery next to my school that had really good pastries, and I would go there for breakfast like several times a week. I was active as well. Like, I was riding my bike to work, and I was walking a lot, but it just wasn't enough to compensate for how much I was eating. So I came back to the US like last spring, spring of 2017, and I was planning to get healthy and lose weight and so forth. It really didn't happen. Actually, the opposite happened. We were moving to a new city. My husband was in the process of getting licensed as a registered nurse, and he was starting grad school. So again, I was quite stressed, and I turned to food, sugar, because that's what I think that's like the pattern I was in since I was like 6 years old. Is when I was stressed or going through a difficult time, I would like eat a lot of sugar. So I would get like the Starbucks frappuccinos or like macchiatos and cake pops and things like that. Or we would stop at a gas station while we were like moving or driving here and there, and I would get like candy, things like that. Plus, we were eating out a lot while we were in the process of moving cities, and I just kept gaining weight. So by September 2017, I was at 154. That was the first and only time in my life that I ever did like a formal diet. I'm not a dieter. I could never stick to anything like restrictive, but I just felt so terrible that I decided to do a 10-day green smoothie cleanse. And it was okay. It wasn't like a bad experience. I did lose 4 pounds, but as soon as I stopped the cleanse, I went back to my old eating habits. Like, I hadn't learned to do anything differently. I hadn't changed my mindset around food. So I gained back the 4 pounds and then some. And then I just kept like going to Starbucks, getting like pumpkin spice lattes and all of the fall treats, and then baking like over the holidays. I was baking a lot and eating like fudge and cookies and hot chocolate and yeah, all the stuff that people normally overindulge in over the holidays. So in January of this year, we went to Miami on vacation, and I just was feeling so uncomfortable. I was at my heaviest, like I wore a rash guard to the beach every single time we went. I felt like very uncomfortable in my body. I just, I felt like the all of the fat around my hips and stomach was kind of like weighing me down almost. I just didn't feel like myself at all. And I remember at one point I asked my husband to pick me up. Like, we were just messing around. And he said, you know, I can't, I don't want to hurt my back. He didn't say anything about my weight, but I just felt like that was the reason. And I broke down sobbing. Like, I just cried and cried. I couldn't believe that I'd let myself get to that point. And I think because I gained weight so gradually over such a long period of time, I I hadn't realized like what had happened. I'd been busy living my life, but every time I got stressed, every time things were hard, I was using food as a crutch to like help me move along. So every stressful period in my life, I would gain 5 or 10 pounds, and over the course of a decade, that had added up to 40 pounds. Now, I know that, that doesn't sound like a huge number, but I'm not like very big. I'm only 5'3", kind of like a small frame. So I'm kind of a petite uh, person, and on me, 158 pounds is a BMI of 28. which is like the upper end of overweight, getting close to being obese. And if I had kept gaining, an average of 4 pounds a year, so 40 pounds every decade, by the time I was 56, I would have been like, about 280 pounds. So I was on a trajectory to a life that I knew I didn't want. Um, if I had kept gaining the way I was, at some point I would have become morbidly obese. And that's not even accounting for having children or going through menopause or other events that might cause you to gain weight if you're not careful. So, my husband, who is incredible, offered to help me if I wanted to lose weight, and I definitely did. I just needed some guidance to get started. I was quite overwhelmed, I think. What's it called? Paralysis by analysis. Like, I think I was so focused on the details that it was hard to start doing anything. So he just advised me to, watch my portion sizes and cut way back on processed foods, especially desserts. We stopped buying them for the house completely for a while, and just to do a lot of cardio. That's how I lost the first 10 to 12 pounds, like this past winter. I just did a ton of cardio at my local gym and ate a lot of tuna salad and cut back on processed food. For me, that was enough. So I got down to about 145 by June, which was last month, and that was good. I'd lost like a little over 12 pounds, but I'd kind of plateaued for a long time in the spring, like April, May, because we'd bought a condo and we had moved. I'd started a new teaching job, and I just, well, I don't know if I was stress eating as much, but I kind of I didn't have the time and energy to commit to it, and my heart just wasn't in it by this point. I was still losing weight, but it was very, very gradual, and I was feeling like frustrated because on the one hand, I did want to keep losing weight, and I did want to get in better shape and be able to do more things and so forth. But I also felt like I just really wanted to be able to eat dessert all the time. Like, I have a massive sweet tooth, and I had this Pinterest board of like 400 plus desserts, and I would look at it and feel real anxiety. Like, how am I going to have enough time in my life to make all these desserts and try all of them? That was like a real concern for me, even just 6 weeks ago. I would think about it a lot. And I was so conflicted in my mind. In fact, I was conflicted for a very long time because on the one hand, I wanted to be healthy and fit, and on the other hand, I wanted to be able to have, to bake chocolate chip cookies every week and have brownie sundaes all the time. And I don't know, I really like quite decadent chocolate desserts. So, be able to experiment with like Nutella stuffed cookies and I don't know, chocolate chip cookie ice cream sandwiches and all kinds of crazy things. That's really like the most difficult thing for me to give up. I'm not really a savory or salty person. I love my desserts. So for a long time, I didn't know which one I wanted more. Even when I was losing weight this year from January to the beginning of June, I didn't know. And I would be like making progress and stuff and still feeling like I think in the back of my mind I wasn't sure if I wanted it because I really missed being able to like watch Netflix and eat like a cereal bowl of ice cream. Like I missed that, and I I was almost a bit upset that I couldn't have that and lose weight. I felt it was unfair that that like my metabolism wouldn't allow it. At the beginning of June, which was last month, I had kind of hit a plateau. I was right around 145 pounds, but my heart wasn't completely in it. I wasn't totally sure if I wanted it because I didn't know if I wanted to make the sacrifices to keep going. And I was still like, I would still get the really sugary Starbucks drinks on occasion, or, have some things that I hadn't had at the beginning of my weight loss journey, like potato chips or things like that. So at the beginning of June, I was watching this show called My 600-Pound Life. I would watch like clips of it on YouTube. And if you don't know, My 600-Pound Life is a show about morbidly obese patients, like 600 to maybe 750 pounds, who are trying to get weight loss surgery and lose a massive amount of weight. And if you are 600 plus pounds, you probably have a really severe food addiction, right? So most of the people on the show had some really serious issues around eating and the amounts they would eat and just like compulsive kind of addictive behaviors in relation to food. So I remember watching the show and almost feeling frustrated with some of the patients or the participants on the show because they would show how these individuals, some of them couldn't walk, or they could walk just like very little. They couldn't take care of themselves in some cases, and the activities that they could do were very limited by their size and their health. But they would still get like, I don't know, like pizza delivered or eat whole cartons of ice cream or bags of chips and candy and cookies and all those kind of really calorically dense, like high reward, very pleasurable foods. And it was so hard for them to give up those things. And I remember there was one show where they had a nutritionist come on and go into the kitchen of one of the patients who was considering getting weight loss surgery before she even had the surgery. And the nutritionist went through her kitchen and threw out all of the processed food or all of the less healthy choices. And this lady was mad. Like, she was housebound and imprisoned by her weight, basically, but she was mad about having her junk food thrown away. And I remember like almost yelling at the screen like, please just give it up. It's not worth it. Like, you cannot have all of these foods that you're addicted to and lose the weight that you need to lose to be healthy. Like, you can't have both. It's so obvious to everyone, but you're trying to have both. Um, just just cut those foods out of your life. You don't need them. And when I thought that, I realized, why am I feeling so frustrated with this lady who has a severe food addiction? Like, I should apply my advice to myself because I there were foods that I was, I think, in a way, kind of addicted to, specifically like sugar and certain like dessert or sweet foods that are very processed, like brownies and cookies and ice cream. And a part of me wasn't ready to let that go. Up until that point, I had been trying to figure out a way to have both. To be able to eat, brownies and cookies and those kind of desserts on a regular basis and lose weight. Like, I wanted to figure out a way to have both, and it frustrated me that I couldn't. Um, I just wasn't ready to cut those things out of my life in any meaningful way. Like, I wanted to be fit, but part of me didn't want to be fit because part of me also wanted to be the girl who ate, cookie dough ice cream from a cereal bowl while watching Netflix. That used to be my comfortable and safe place. And I hadn't truly made the decision to let go of that. So when I saw these contestants who were struggling so hard to let go of their food addictions, it just made me realize that I had to do the same. I had to let go of those foods that I had trouble saying no to. So for me, that would be really decadent chocolate desserts. Like, probably one of my favorites would be like a hot fudge brownie sundae. And I started thinking, like, if I never have another hot fudge brownie sundae, but I get to be fit and healthy and have the life that I want, will that be okay? Like, can I give it up to be fit? And I realized that the answer was yes. I if I never had another cookie or another candy bar or another like Starbucks, I don't know, double chip frappuccino, if I never had another bite of any of those things, but I got to be fit and healthy and do the things I wanted to do in life, I would be okay. I could live without the security blanket of like dessert that I'd been carrying around for 20 years. I could be okay without it. And I wanted to be okay without it. I wanted to grow into a person who didn't need that stuff anymore. And I I want so many things in life. Like, I want to climb mountains and scuba dive the Great Barrier Reef and be able to, you know, like feel good and have energy and be a fit parent if I ever have children. I want to be able to rock climb. Like, I want to have a healthy and active retirement, spent outdoors. Like, when I'm 70, I want to be hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, not going from doctor's office to doctor's office. At least, not if I can avoid that by living a healthy lifestyle. I don't know what will happen. But I want those things more than I want Oreos dipped in Nutella. I want those things more than I want hot fudge brownie sundaes. I want those things more than I want to try every flavor of Frappuccino on the Starbucks menu. Like, the desserts are, short-term pleasure and comfort. But if that was keeping me from the life I really wanted to live, it wasn't worth it. And if I never have another bite of brownie again, like, I'll live and I'll be happy. I can live without that. Um, and maybe it sounds silly, but for so many years, I was convinced that I couldn't, that I needed those comfort foods in order to survive and be happy and cope with life. Like, I'd trained myself to do that since I was a little girl who would, like, sneak candy because she felt scared or lonely. But I realized that I want more than that. Like, I want to be a person who is emotionally healthy and who can deal with life and deal with problems without needing to turn to food as, a mechanism for comfort or for survival. Once I realized that, everything shifted in my life. Like, once I had my priorities straight and I wanted to be fit more than I wanted to eat fill in the blank food, like, yeah, brownie sundaes or whatever it was, everything just became so much easier. Like, I was about to turn 27 at the time, and right before I had that kind of realization, my husband had asked if I wanted to go out to breakfast for my birthday, and I had been wanting to go to Bob Evans. It's kind of like a Denny's, I guess, um, and try their Buckeye pancakes, which are like peanut butter chocolate pancakes with whipped cream and chocolate topping and so forth and so on. Um, I had been thinking about that every time I drove by the sign for it, and it just seemed like the perfect opportunity, right? Like, it's my birthday. Yeah, I'm on a weight loss journey, but I should like treat myself. I deserve it, right? But after I had that moment where I realized that I wanted, like, my long-term goals mattered more than short-term gratification as far as food, I started thinking about it differently. And I started thinking, like, you know, are these pancakes really in line with what I want for myself? Do I really want to start my 28th year of life by eating tons and tons and tons of refined sugar that's going to give me a stomach ache and a sugar crash an hour later? Like, is that really how I want to celebrate my birthday? Do I really want to be a person who celebrates every single occasion with unhealthy food? Um, do I want to be the person who's always thinking about Buckeye pancakes every time I drive by the sign? No. Like, that's not what I wanted. And I realized that some things that were part of my old life, some foods and some habits and some traditions even, can't be part of my life anymore, ever. Which is not to say that I'll never have pancakes or I'll never have a brownie sundae, but it can't be something I dwell on. It can't be something that I think about all the time or that I expect to have with any regularity. And it can't be something that I need. I think that's the most important part. So, since that time, since the beginning of June, I've lost another 10 pounds, just about. I'm down to 135, and I would say, another 15 pounds to go. I'd like to get down to 120 and then kind of see where I'm at. Just see if I want to lose more weight or if I want to focus more on fitness goals at that point. Um, but I would just say, if you are trying to lose weight, um, maybe there are certain things that can't be part of your reality anymore. So for me, that was like keeping ice cream in the house, going out for pancakes, eating like chocolate or candy when I'm stressed, the really sugary Starbucks drinks like Frappuccinos. Um, those things are not part of my life in any meaningful way anymore. That's not to say that there's any foods that are off limits or that I am not allowed to eat. It's not like that. It's just that I don't want to eat a lot of food that is really, really high in processed sugar because I know it's not good for me. Like, I know if I eat, a huge ice cream or something, my blood sugar is going to shoot up and then crash. And that's not healthy. Like, I should take care of my body and feed my body in a way that's nourishing and that, like, makes me feel good, not in a way that makes me feel sick. I'll probably never have another Starbucks Frappuccino. I'll probably never eat fried Oreos at the county fair. There are some things that maybe I won't do anymore, and that's okay, because yeah, I don't order frappuccinos and cake pops at Starbucks anymore. I don't like eat ice cream in front of the TV. I don't go out for the kind of treats that I used to, or very, very rarely. But I feel so much better. Um, like I feel healthier and I have more energy and I feel better in my own skin. Lifting weights makes me feel powerful and beautiful and strong, and I'm not really used to feeling like that. And that to me is worth all of the frappuccinos in the world. Like, throw them out the window. I don't want that stuff anymore. Not if the cost to me is potential chronic disease, obesity, and not being able to do the things I love with the people I love. Um, no food is worth that. No, there's absolutely nothing you could put in your mouth that's worth your future and that's worth being able to live the life you want to live. And whatever I've given up, whatever habits or comfort rituals, um, just last night, I deleted my Pinterest dessert board and I didn't feel sad about it because that's not the person I want to be anymore. Like the person who's always thinking about and pinning like all kinds of crazy, super decadent chocolate recipes. That's not me anymore. That's not the person that I want to be. And whatever I've given up in the way of habits, behaviors, Pinterest boards, like foods, whatever I have sacrificed, like I am gaining like 100 times that in benefits. So what I've gained is way, way, way better than what I've given up. And I think if I'd known that, maybe I would have done this a lot earlier. You know, maybe I would have changed my diet and changed my lifestyle years ago, um, if I'd known that it was worth it. And if I'd known that I didn't need those foods, that I could be okay without them. I don't know. But I wonder if maybe I had to go through this process of gaining weight and then coming to this realization in order to really make the change stick. Because every other time I have lost weight, it was just like because I was living a more active lifestyle or, I cut out certain things, but I didn't ever really change my relationship with food or my relationship with myself. And that's really what I'm trying to do now because I never want to be 160 pounds almost again. Um, I never want to be like out of shape again. And I never want to treat myself or treat my body the way that I used to. I want something better for myself and I want it to last. And I think that it will. Um, I've hesitated to make any videos earlier because I just wasn't sure if I could maintain my progress. But I'm at a point now where I know I'm not the person I was at the beginning of this year. And for so many years, probably since high school actually, I would put on my New Year's resolutions like weigh 120 pounds with 20% body fat. That was my resolution for like so many years. But it never happened. I mean, in fact, quite the opposite happened. All those years, I'd write that on my New Year's resolutions and I would gain weight. But I didn't really want it. Um, Not if it meant giving anything up. And this year has been completely different because it's not just that I want to lose X number of pounds. Like, I want to be a different person. I want to live differently and think about food differently and treat myself and my body differently. And I know that if I keep growing personally and keep, you know, focusing on what really matters, that I won't like slide back into my old habits. So I hope this was helpful if you're just starting out losing weight like me. Like I said, I'm still making progress. I am a little over halfway to my goal, and I know I have a very long way to go. So I hope that you'll come along with me for the journey. Thank you for watching. Bye.